Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto Naruto Next Generations discussion on the fallout from Boruto Chapter 75. And as we all know, the last chapter dropped bombshell after bombshell on us in regards to setting up the future events and revealing new information that we as a community have speculated on throughout the last couple of years. At the center of a bunch of conversations in the fandom right now is the vision that Boruto had that showed Sage Mode Mitsuki throwing down with Kawaki, who was in his fully transformed Karma state, and Sarada in the background searching for Kawaki, where she presumably was operating under the assumption that something bad had happened to Boruto Uzumaki. It's not the craziest line of thought for people to take in regards to what could have happened, because we've literally seen Kawaki versus Boruto in the past. We've gotten repeated warning signs that Kawaki is slipping deeper and deeper into what Amado described as madness. We've all asked ourselves, how did things break apart to a point where a boy who was taken in by Konoha and raised by the Hokage like a second son and is obsessed with Naruto, how did things get this bad to where he seemingly is at the center of everything that has happened in the flash forward sequence where Boruto versus Kawaki takes place? Right now, we got the ultimate set of blue balls in terms of how much has been built up, and it's getting painful waiting to see how everything eventually busts. But it looks like we're getting some of those answers, and we're seeing more of how we got down this road. However, I wanted to weigh in from a different perspective here, one that we can't completely rule out, which is now that Boruto is able to see into the future and he sees spurts of the chaos that is waiting for the future of the village, we have to ask ourselves, is it crazy to say that the boy who grew up in a time of peace might actually try to leave the village to try preventing this from coming to pass? Where Boruto goes when he leaves the village, that's a complete mystery. For all we know, he could borrow Denki's laptop in order to subscribe to Hanabi's OnlyFans, or he could be hopping on Ninja Hub in order to see Tsunade as a legendary sucker, maybe order some fresh Rinnegan packs to smoke, maybe add a little bit of that Kurama dust to it because he carved up Sasuke's Rinnegan faster than I carved up this Thanksgiving turkey. Or he could even visit Established Titles, which is going to be the sponsor of today's video. Established Titles is a fun and novel way to preserve the natural woodlands of Scotland while helping with global reforestation efforts. It's a project based in historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds, or lords and ladies in English. With Established Titles, you get at least 1 square foot of dedicated land on a private estate in Edelston, Scotland, and an official certificate with the crest, which has a unique plot number to show you your land. Established Titles plants a tree with every order they receive and work with charities like One Tree Planet and Trees for the Future to support global reforestation efforts. Just as Naruto gets to call himself Lord Hokage, you can officially call yourself Lord or Lady, which now that I have this certificate calling me a Lord, it's going to be on my desk, and everybody who comes to my office has to call me the Lord. And you can get it on your credit card or your plane tickets, or you sussy bakas can even use it on your dating profiles. If you go for the romantic route, you can also purchase the couples pack, which comes with adjoining plots of land. The first 200 people purchasing the title pack using my link will effectively be next to my plot within a few minutes of walking distance from it. Depending on how many of you guys want to become a lord or a lady, we can build our own little Naruto Explained kingdom. My late grandmother, who just passed away, not only loved flowers but also trees as well, so I'm gonna purchase one to honor my late grandmother. It makes an amazing last minute gift. Established Titles is actually running an early Black Friday sale, plus if you use the promo code EXPLAIN, you get an additional 10% off. Go to establishedtitles.com/explain to get your gift and help support the channel. Thank you again to Established Titles for sponsoring today's video. Now look, you guys know by now I'm not a huge fan of Rogue Ninja Boruto, not at all. I hate the idea. I think for Boruto being a gateway shonen and a sequel to one of the biggest gateway shonen of all time, I don't think we're going in that direction. Even if Boruto's manga right now struggles to sell 700,000 volumes in a year and hasn't sniffed 1 million volume sales in almost 4 years in a row now, while it's tempting to say that this shakeup is needed, and I can see why a lot of people say it, I personally don't see it. However, I will say if, and I mean a big if, and an if so big that if Choji goes into giant mode, he still looks smaller than Konohamaru's reputation in Boruto. If this were to happen, there's enough right now to do this method of storytelling, and it will not feel out of character for Boruto. In fact, it actually has a decent payoff now, which is the whole reason why I'm even modifying my stance. So I'll explain to you why this is the case. It really comes down to three things: who Boruto used to be, who he is right now, and who he hopes to be in the future. The Boruto who we were introduced to in 2014 was a spoiled brat who many people called a bootleg Naruto based off of his personality in chapter 700. In 2015, he had his own personality in Naruto Gaiden and in Boruto the movie, but he was an even bigger brat than before, which was completely understandable. He was a child who grew up in a time that was peaceful, if we limit peace and that definition of peace to only being amongst the 5 great nations and none of the smaller villages and none of the smaller countries outside the 5 nations themselves. In the anime, we learned that Boruto's motivation was to help his friends reach their goals. Boruto's love for his friends was rivaled only by his love for his village. However, right now, currently, Boruto's become someone who's seen a few things. He's seen the death of friends. He's seen the death of allies. He's been responsible for destroying his mentor's eye, robbing him of a tremendous source of power, and putting a man who protects the village from afar in more danger than ever before. He's almost killed his own father, and he's been shown willing to take the hard decisions that need to be made if it means protecting the village and giving up his own life. Boruto in the future wants to protect the village from the shadows, even at the cost that it will have in terms of the high expense that's required. Boruto will never be able to have a normal life. His life will always be from the shadows. His heart will have to be hardened, and he'll have to do things that his own family and friends won't understand. This brings me to this new version of Boruto, this vision of Boruto that we saw. Boruto, before his very eyes, saw a future where his friends, they were fighting and they were bloodlusted. We know his love for his friends is a strong motivator for Boruto, and seeing his friends try to kill each other is the last thing Boruto would want to see. He'd do anything to stop it, even if it meant leaving the village if he thought he himself was the cause of the altercation, innocently believing, just like a child would, which Boruto's still a child, that if he were to remove himself from the equation, things would go back to normal, a child's thought process. A Shadow Hokage wouldn't hesitate to take that extreme option to leave the village if there was no other choice, but only after looking to see if there were other alternatives. And when they did leave, it would be with the focus and the desire to find more answers behind the questions that they have. That way them leaving wouldn't be for just nothing. This also brings us to Momoshiki's prophecy. Those blue eyes of yours will take everything away from you. Boruto's eyes, they did show him a future where everyone was fighting. He stands to lose the very friends and bonds that he cherishes so much. If it removes him from the village that he loves so much, it's not the doom and gloom that we've all built up in our heads for the past 6, almost 7 years since that chapter dropped where he gave Boruto the prophecy. However, it could work. Here's the thing though. The issue of why Boruto would give up control to Momoshiki. The way that Momoshiki was talking, he told Boruto in chapter 67 it's going to be a grand spectacle. He told Boruto in chapter 72 that whatever happened, Boruto's going to lose the desire to live, and he was going to give up control to Momoshiki. The way he was talking, that future, that calamity, and Boruto giving up the will to live and control to Momoshiki, everything appeared to be linked. We're still a few pieces away in the puzzle from having a clear picture and answers. Again, I personally do not think that the story is going this route, because at the end of the day, Boruto isn't the edgy shonen where the hero of the story takes a turn for the worse or takes the dark path in order to save everyone. But we now have something set up where we can at least say right now that if, and I mean again to re-stress a big if this is the route that things go, we at least have something to say right now. This does not feel like it's out of character at all. In fact, it feels very in character. It would give him an opportunity, especially if Boruto makes a giant mistake in the process of leaving the village. It gives the opportunity to have Boruto learn of what it means to be shouldering a burden like this. And when you're shouldering that burden, there's more to it than just making hard decisions, because Boruto's clearly being pushed in the direction of inheriting Sasuke's will. And it's worth noting that Naruto and a few other people have said Boruto's a lot like Sasuke in a lot of different ways. Sasuke thought leaving the village was his path towards killing Itachi, but in the process of leaving and walking that path, there were a lot of things that Sasuke overlooked and he couldn't understand until he had hindsight. Could Boruto mirror that? Well, that's the million-dollar question I'm going to leave you guys with. While you think that over, click here to watch my Chainsaw Man video on Kryptonian Saiyan, or click here to watch this Naruto Explain video.